What's up, everybody? It's your friend Pete Golden Lotus. I'm back with another segment. Make sure that you check out all my other segments at dailyblue.com. Or you could go directly to Daily Blue on YouTube, as well as my own personal website at www.goldenlotus.me. Got a bunch of great videos in the works, and as always, I love your feedback. I get a lot of feedback from you guys, and it definitely helps me sort of fine-tune some of the questions that you have, and those are things that I'll get to in later episodes. And actually, the second episode that I'm doing today is one of those responses. So today, what I'm going to talk about is motivating from a place that is not fear. Obviously, in my private practice, I'm a body worker, meditation teacher, trauma resolution counselor, and I find that the way that a lot of us sort of function, which is a legitimate way to function, is we get afraid of something and then we're in this crazy tizzy to find some sort of solution. And what I've noticed is that the people that come to me in those sort of ways often don't sustain their wellness plans. Usually there's a big problem, they want it to go away, and once that settles down, it's kind of back to business as usual. And so fear is not a great long-term motivator. It's a great short-term motivator, and it's definitely, all these people talking about no fear and all this other kind of stuff. It's crazy talk, because, reality is that fear is a legitimate thing. It's a legitimate input to us as human beings. And so, it definitely has its place, but it doesn't have its place in our long-term goals, our long-term, what we're looking to set up for ourselves in our lives. The thing that does help us set up for long-term goals and put us on the path towards what we really want in our lives is something called will. And in my personal work, with the diamond approach, will is a tremendous aspect, but just in our general lives, will has plays a pretty powerful role. And we don't necessarily encounter, will shows up in a few different ways. One of the distortions of will is rigidity. And so, there's a lot of people that are very, very hard about everything that they're doing. They stick to a plan and it's just very rigid, and which is great because it's great, but it's not ideal, because you need some flexibility within that sort of construct, and rigidity is sort of absence of trust. Will is more deeply rooted in a trust that because you miss a day of exercise, that doesn't mean that, your entire plan is derailed. It means that you trust that, as the time shows up, or as you plan a little bit better through the, next coming days or next coming weeks, you will realign with your path. And rigidity is just smashing through everything regardless of whatever it is, and just getting it done no matter what. And both of those things have their places. I've been both of those things in my life. I'm not rejecting one or the other. I'm just discerning between the two, because it is important that we do get in touch with will. And one of the ways that we are out of touch with will and why rigidity shows up is, I don't think many of us know that the obstacles within us, as well as, we sort of set up in reality itself, the obstacles themselves are the pathway that we want to follow. They're not something to be avoided. They're not something to be obliterated. It's actually something to be explored. Because it's important to see the architecture of why we don't want to do things. It helps us understand ourselves a little bit more. It helps us understand our psychological makeup. It helps us understand, basically humanity itself, because it's not, my obstacles, although they are framed specifically for me, they're not all that different from anybody else's obstacles. And so as I break down my own, it's easier for me to help people diagnose and look at their own obstacles, because I've encountered them before. I see what they're like. And they're not necessarily quite as destructive as we imagine that they are. They actually offer us quite a bit as to why we're resistant to doing things. And so obviously, if you go back, always on my website, I have there's sort of I set up sort of there's a chronological order. So there's some older tools that I have on there that are perfect for that. One of them is meditation. All of them are based in mindfulness, and mindfulness is the overall practice. It's the thing that I'm going to be proselytizing from now till forever, because mindfulness is the thing that offers us the opportunity to really sit with our obstacle rather than because that's what actually brings up fear, or a derivative of fear, is when we feel this obstacle, we get all these terrible sensations, this kind of little bit of fight or flight starts bubbling up. And so it's important that we have the tools of being with our breath, sensing our hands and feet, our meditation practices, as well as journaling, to combat these forces and break them down a little bit. This way we just get to see for ourselves. Like, we don't have to be so afraid when an obstacle shows up. And we don't have to go the opposite way, which is normally what happens. People see an obstacle and they just sort of cave in, and which is sort of the opposite of will. And that's why, will is sort of this underdeveloped thing in our culture. And so being with your obstacle, whatever it might be, being gentle. Not, like I said, everything doesn't have to come and be so rigid and push through. Sometimes you do need that to use that as an energy to kind of get you into something. But again, what I find with a healthy relationship to will, obstacles actually becomes more enjoyable. As well, the activities themselves actually become enjoyable, rather than me sort of driving myself into things I'm convinced I hate. There's a reason why I feel like I don't like it, and I want to know why, and I'm hoping that you want to know why too. And so, like I said, I feel like I'm going off on tangents. So sitting with an obstacle, that's what a journal is perfect for. That's what your breath is perfect for. Just kind of write what shows up. And recently I've been getting into journaling. I journal almost every day again, because I see that it's got such a tremendous value. So write whatever you feel like your obstacle is. And also define it from your experiential standpoint, meaning, what does the obstacle feel like when it shows up in your body? Is there a shape to it? Does it do something to your breath? Does it do something to your mind? Does it do something, to your pelvis? Do you feel stiff when it comes? Do you feel defeated when it comes? All these things, all of that is pertinent information to put out there, because that's a grander part of the overall pattern. And so the more that you actually write about it, the more you're starting to explore it. You're starting to see exactly what it is. And as you breathe and as you take your time and continue to explore these things, the rigidity starts to dissipate, the fear starts to dissipate, and you're left in more of a connected state of actual will. And so you'll have more available to you to carry you through to these new ventures that you want to take. Because that's, something that I've been talking about for a long time too, is everything we want is not where we currently are. If we want to create an album, that's in a whole other place. And it takes a whole other skill set to get us there. So everything we want is outside of our comfort zone. And so these are some tools. This is a great tool to help you start to explore exactly why you're in your comfort zone and help to motivate you to get you out. So I'd like to thank you for being with me today. Again, if you love this, make sure that you check out all the other segments at dailyblue.com. And definitely check out my website, www.goldenlotus.me, Golden Lotus on Facebook.